Welcome to the Spheres of Spirit with Nancy Myers, aka the Lady of the Light. Nancy will discuss the everyday magic and wisdom of spirit which surrounds each of us, waiting to be discovered. She will share some of her remarkable orb photos, proving that our angels, guides, loved ones in spirit, and even pets surround us and guide us in our physical world. During this episode, Nancy will discuss one of the many spheres or aspects of spirit available to us based on her orb photography. She will also share a special channeled message from her guide, Leonini, and do an oracle card reading to help guide you along your personal spiritual adventure. And now, here is your host, orb photographer, author, medium, and speaker, Nancy Myers.
Hi, welcome to the show. I am your host, Nancy Myers. I'm super excited today. Of course, I'm always excited about my podcast, but today I have a special guest, and we're going to talk about NDEs, near-death experiences. And my guest, who I'll bring on in a minute, experienced one about 6 months ago when his heart stopped for 50 minutes. 50 minutes. But what is a near-death experience, or NDE? Doctors kind of go back and forth. The spiritual community, I think, is more accepted of an NDE. But here's what I found how the medical field, at least medical news today, defines what an NDE is. A near-death experience or experiences are states of altered consciousness that can occur in the context of a life-threatening event, such as a heart attack or near drowning. So that's the medical news, almost acknowledging that there is a altered consciousness. I loved it. Cambridge Dictionary defines an NDE as an experience described by some people who have been close to death, in which the person feels as if they have left their body and are watching themselves. We hear that a lot about NDE experiencers. So are near-death experiences a new phenomenon? Way back when, at the end of Plato's Republic, which I believe was written in the BCs, the philosopher Socrates shares the myth of a warrior named E-R. He was killed in battle. 12 days later, the man comes back to life to tell of the other world he had seen. His soul, he says, left his body to arrive in a mysterious place where others were judged for their deeds and luminous beings descended from above. So you see, this is not a new phenomena, but it's a phenomena now, I believe, that is gaining traction in the scientific world. So if we could bring up the first slide, Chris. And you know, I always tie my shows into my orbs, and this is one of my recent orbs. Oops, Chris, can we get the other one? Sorry, that's the end. I switched them. There we go. So this one is a quote by Dr. Brian Weiss, and he said, "Love is the energy from which all people and things are made. You are connected to everything in your world through love." And the last part of that, you are connected to everything in your world, I think is going to be an important component of my next guest conversation. So without further ado, I would like to welcome to the show Mr. Rand Ketchpaw. Hi, Rand.
Hi, Nancy.
I just brutalized your last name, Ketchpaw.
That's okay.
Not Capshaw, Ketchpaw.
It's phonetically perfect, but nobody gets it right. So that's
I'm so sorry. Welcome to the show. And again, I want to thank you so much for your generous time and your courage to talk about this. Now, I was going over your bio, and you know, you are a healthy guy. You were active. You were, outdoors. And so what happened to you had to come as kind of a shock. So let's retrace and go back. What was it, to March, April? And tell us how this unfolded for you.
Certainly. It was probably late February. everything was normal. I started walking. We walk our dogs every day, my wife and I, and nothing was different. And one day I had a little pain in my chest. And yeah, and I noticed my fingers were turning blue, which, by the way, we've investigated, had no association to my chest feeling. But
Wow.
yeah, and I thought, well, it's still early spring. It was a little cold when we walk. And I thought maybe I'm just having a reaction to the cold. So this feeling would come on. It wasn't a pain. It was hard to explain what it was exactly, but it was a feeling in my chest. So I thought nothing of it. It would subside after maybe 10 minutes. And this went on for about a month. And then as I got closer to my birthday, which was March 18th, I noticed this kept reoccurring. I was a little troubled. And on my birthday, March 18th, my friend Roger, who's my tree trimmer, his guys were cutting branches, dropping them in my sweet peas. So I jokingly got after him. I mean, he's a friend, but just that little adrenaline spike really set me off, like doubled me up. And I thought, oh God, is this a heart attack? I mean, is this what it feels like? So I told my wife, look, I'm going to drive to the ER and just have them check me out. So that kind of got me started in thinking, I've got a bigger problem than, just this little feeling I was having. They checked me out, everything, they EKG, they did everything. The only thing they didn't do was a stress test. They let me go. So I thought, and I've never been proactive medically. I took not one drug. I rarely went to the doctor. I was a bad patient basically. And so I went to my GP test. He listened to my heart, said everything's fine. Found a cardiologist, didn't have one. Went to see him. He put me on a few medications just to make sure, said he'd like to schedule. And this is where the good fortune starts for me. So he wanted me to go do a stress test. Well, my wife wanted a nuclear stress test, and he wanted to do the physical stress test.
I don't know the difference.
Well, one is you're on a treadmill, physically, exerting yourself. And that's the test he wanted. And so, we scheduled that, but his technician was out of town. He was on vacation. So they had to reschedule me for the following week. So now I'm about 2 weeks out.
Are you still experiencing these pains?
It's extremely intermittent. It's extremely intermittent, and it doesn't last long. And it wasn't even really a pain. So that's why I dismissed it so much.
Okay.
So then the Friday night before April 2nd, which was the day I went into the hospital, I was with friends in Ojai playing cards. We have a friendly poker game. My buddies, it's a kind of a tournament play. So it's winner take all. One guy left and I won. Thank goodness. Right.
There goes that adrenaline strike.
Yes, absolutely. And very subtle, but it didn't feel subtle. I mean, I had to stop. I sat in his chair for 30 minutes, then let this feeling subside. Like a fool, I drove 25 minutes home at, 10:30 at night. And so I thought, you know what, I'm having a stress test Tuesday. I'll take it easy. And then Sunday morning, I ate breakfast. I was walking back to the bedroom to talk to my wife, and she had asked me, would you like to go to the ER? And I said, no, I'm just going to wait till Tuesday. I'm going to be stubborn, of course. And so I sat down, and this feeling came on me again. And this time it was not subsiding. So about 15 minutes, I said, I think you need to call an ambulance. And it was all pretty benign because by the time they got there, it had subsided. I got in the ambulance, in my shorts and shirt, saying bye to the neighbor kids. And so we went off to the hospital. Everything was fine. Got there. Another fortunate thing, there was a woman who was going to have a procedure. The cath lab was all prepped. Doctors were in place. And for whatever reason, I don't know. I want to talk to some of the particulars, all the people that were there, because there's a lot of gaps in the story. I'm going to try and fill in over the next year. But I was fortunate. For whatever reason, they bumped her, whether she had changed her plans or whatever it was. So they took me up there. And and I thought everything was fine. The doctor came in, he said, we're going to do an angiogram, probably going to need to put a stent in or two. Okay, fine. And then all hell broke loose. So
you're using the word fortunate. I want to use the word synchronistic.
well, synchronistic's very good. I like that word. Yeah.
So let's just for a second recap up to this point. Again, the things that changed to get you to this point. So you couldn't take your stress test when you were supposed to, right?
Right.
And then the
Which
second,
they told me you would have died in the office
right.
because of the severity of my block. Right.
Okay. So that got pushed up.
Yes.
And then you have this feeling again. Evidently, it's not a typical heart attack feeling. You didn't get the pain down your arms
No,
or the elephant on your chest.
not at all.
It was just a feeling, a weird feeling as you describe it, right?
Yeah, I wish I could. Yeah, there's going to be many things in our discussion today I can't describe. You know,
Sure.
I was
Sure.
thinking the other night, I go, well, if a picture's worth 1,000 words, what's an experience worth?
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. Exactly.
So there are things I just can't really express.
So then the next synchronistic thing is, so you're taken to the ER in an ambulance ahead of the day that you were supposed to have your stress test.
2 days,
2
correct.
days. Okay.
Tuesday was supposed to be the stress test.
Okay. So that's synchronicity number 2, right?
Right.
So then the third synchronicity is this lady, for whatever reason,
Had a
doesn't show
procedure,
up, or
right, at the
and then
exact moment I needed to go up there.
exact moment.
Exact moment.
Okay. So let's continue on.
Okay. So up to the lab I go. Dr. Wadi, a fantastic cardiologist, comes in, introduces himself. I didn't know him. He was on call. Kind of explains everything. Now they start prepping me. So, and they start to administer anesthesia. So I'm, starting to leave. And that's it. So now I'm gone. So now they're going to start their procedure. So
Well,
now
don't use the word gone. You're under.
I'm under. True. I haven't technically gone yet. Yeah, very
Right.
good. So I mean, everything that seemed normal. So then the question is, what happened next? And I remember having a conversation with everyone in the room. I can't remember the conversation, but I remember talking to people in the room. And then I slipped away from conversation, and all I can recall was commotion around me. So this is where my event really starts for me, my conscious event.
Okay.
There's activity in the room. I know that it's hysteria in the sense that it's not good for me. Like, it seemed abnormal, right?
So where are you at this point? Are you still
I'm
in your body,
I'm
or
well,
do you know?
yeah, I know that I'm present.
Okay.
I don't feel my body, and the only thing I could equate it to would be that if my body were a boat on the surface of the ocean, I'm at the bottom of the ocean looking up. So if there's turbulence on the surface, so be it. I'm secure in this non-turbulent world I'm sitting in. So my feeling at the time was one of absolute serenity. So I didn't have a concern, or I didn't have a fear, and I had a consciousness that there may be a problem, but I had no idea what that problem was.
And it didn't
So,
seem to upset you, even though you.
it's beyond not being upset. This is where you grasp for words that can explain how you feel.
Sure.
And it's tough to do because it's a feeling it's an experience I've never ever even come close to having. Hopefully never do again. Right. Yeah.
So then, so this was the first time, because your heart stopped twice, right?
Well, the first time was right away, and they brought me back right away. And this is where I had the conversation with them.
Ah,
And
okay.
they put me on anesthesia, and I was out. So then they shocked me back. They put the paddle on me. I came to and started talking to them. Well, then they administered more anesthesia to put me out again. And then the doctor started his procedure. This is where the timeline's always off for me, because I've never been able to talk to anybody specific to it. And then it always I'm in insurance. And I always thought, do people not want to tell me too much
Yeah.
for fear of any repercussion? I don't know. So I don't know that part of the story, but I do know that this is when I really had my where I truly arrested for the 50 minutes. And
Wow.
they just, yeah. And so they were obviously working on me for that whole time, offering CPR to me. And, and during this time, this is when I experienced that somebody was actually working on me. And I've since talked to my wife that I have these memories coming back of, people, it's hard to explain, that people were over me trying to help me,
Hmm.
but I didn't feel it.
There
And
was a detachment there.
well, yeah, this is the beauty of trying to explain this.
I know. It's like talking I have a saying, it's like talking butterfly language to caterpillar people.
I mean, true,
Yeah.
because when you close your eyes, you're still present. You know, you can feel your body. You're right there. If I close my eyes, I know everything's right there in front of me. And this was the absolute opposite feeling. I was somewhere in a depth or in a place, but that place I was in was hyper secure.
Hmm.
It was a wonderful feeling, a relaxed feeling, and a feeling of being unconcerned about outcome. Just I had no concern about the outcome.
Hmm.
It was
Yeah, it was like, it's gonna whatever it is, it's okay.
it's
So
be but it's beyond okay.
yeah, well, I'm we're the caterpillar people here trying to put
Well,
words
right,
to what you experienced. But the first time, if I can just backtrack a little bit,
please.
the first time that they started the anesthesia and your heart stopped, you said they put paddles on you. Do you have any memory of, because you said you came back and you talked to people and then they put you out again?
Well, there was a joke going around that I was a celebrity in the cath lab, which, by the way, plays to my ego. Um, but I was a celebrity because I guess I was being funny, and
Ah,
and they thought it was a very weird thing that a person would come out of being paddled with
a
humor.
joke.
Yeah, well, that is me. I mean, I was obviously sarcastic to some degree, I'm sure.
So did they tell you how long you had your heart had stopped that time? Was it just a couple of
No,
minutes?
they said they got me back right away.
Right away.
So, yeah,
Okay.
so I arrested, they brought me right back, and then they went into the procedure to do the angiogram and then go in and put in the stents. And that's the timeline I don't have information from anyone is, because I was in there for hours,
Oh,
which
really? How
seemed
long
like minutes. Yeah.
when you say hours, how long are hours?
Well, I was arrested the second time for over 50 minutes. So just there's an hour just trying to resuscitate me. And
So
they still had to complete the procedure after that.
wow. So you got put under, you arrested, they got you right back, they gave you more anesthesia, started the procedure again, and then that's when you arrested
That's when I arrested.
big
Right.
time. So the
Right.
paddles didn't help. They're doing
Nothing.
CPR, it's amazing that the doctor didn't give up after 50 minutes.
He did give
Why?
up. He gave no, this is the crazy part. They gave up twice. They wanted to call me twice. So there was the let's call him faction, and then the let's not give up faction going on within the operating room. Like,
Huh.
so yeah. And boy, I'll tell you, when probably that was emotionally affected me the most with the relevance of how dire this was. Because since I never really experienced people's emotion, only my own concept of it. And my concept of it that it was wonderful. What I remember was nice. What I remember was beautiful. What I remember was like I said, serene. But for everyone else, for my wife, it was hellish.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, and for
Frantic.
the doctors trying to save me, I'm sure the same. And so when I hear that, people wanted to call, and the reason the doctor wanted to call it was because his fear. I mean, he actually stated, "I don't want to be this guy if we do get him back, because he's been gone so long. He's going to be horribly compromised. And most of it would be neurological."
Because there was no
Right.
oxygen.
Because I was out. Well, they were performing CPR, so there's,
Blood
you
going.
yeah, you have blood going. I mean, obviously my brain was still getting oxygen, but how much? And for that long, their anticipation was that I would not come out of this very good. So they thought to call it twice.
Did they perform Rand CPR for 50 minutes, or did they
Yes.
put you on a machine in that time? It was strictly
No,
CPR.
they never used the machine. And we found out, I mean, there's many, many stories. So about 2.5 months ago, they put me on a new drug for SIGA. I hope the manufacturer doesn't dislike this story, but I didn't like it. It made me feel weird. I mean, it made my heart feel funny. And I was at the hospital doing, I know I've digressed here off the story, but I went in just to be checked out because I wanted to make sure there wasn't a problem with my heart, that it was a drug, which I thought it probably was. And a doctor came in who was a cardio. His specialty was the electronics of the heart, right? Whatever the pathway is, whatever that keeps your heart beating. And
Okay.
and then when he realized who I was, he took a selfie with me. Yeah, I know. That's why I said, bear with me. Don't let me go egotistical on this, because I wasted Warhol's 15 minutes of fame the wrong way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wouldn't recommend that.
Oh, yeah. No, darn it. I thought it would be something more profitable. But anyways, so he said, "Oh my God, I was with you the whole time. For off and on, we had four people, 4 EMTs working on you,
Wow.
and on for 50 minutes." And he goes, "I was one of them." And he said, he actually, a tear came to his eye when he looked at my wife, and he said, "This guy's a miracle.
Wow.
It's an absolute miracle. He should not have survived this."
So you defy medical expectations, if you will, of what happens to a body when it's gone for that long.
Right.
Again, another synchronicity, right? That these people, and it's interesting to me that you had these two sides, as you put it, of one saying, no, let's call him, and the others,
Right.
for whatever reason,
For whatever reason.
they kept going and they won out.
And that's the real humbling. I mean, that's where emotionally it really kind of came to truth with me. I thought, oh boy, if you didn't know you were really close, then now you were. That's how dire it was for you. That somebody could have easily just said, "Let's just quit,"
Yeah.
and that would have been it.
That would have been it. So some of the things they were worried about with the team that was maybe not in favor of keeping you alive and going. I mean, I know it's our brain, but what are some of the other effects that they were worried if they quote unquote saved you from this? Eh,
Well, yes. Well, just physically, that they were going to lacerate my liver, because they really compress you hard when they're doing CPR. I mean, so they thought I was going to have a damaged liver. Um, I was put on ECMO, which is a life support. So they thought for sure I was going to be in renal failure, at least temporarily. I mean, these are the things they're prepping my wife with. He's probably going to have temporary renal failure, be on dialysis, and then hopefully his kidneys will come back around. But there is a possibility he'll be on permanent dialysis.
wow.
Yeah.
And that's not even talking yet about, brain activity or
No,
damage to the brain.
they had no idea what, where I was going to be when I came back around.
Wow, that's amazing.
But
So,
me, I had no worries. I felt,
well, we're going to talk about that.
yeah, okay.
Where were you and what you were experiencing?
Yeah.
Because I have to take a break here because I don't want to start in the middle of it and then
Okay.
and then stop. So, Chris, if it's okay, I'm going to do my break now. And when we come back, we'll talk to Rand more about, okay, what were you doing all this time? We'll be right back.
Om Times TV. The story told in Entering the Light Fantastic, Discovering Life After Life Through Orbs, is about Nancy Meyer's spiritual and emotional rising from the devastating ashes of loss caused by the sudden and unexpected passing of her son Robbie. Just like the legend of the reborn phoenix, Nancy's life purpose and focus was transformed. With the help from her son in spirit, Nancy found herself providing proof through orbs that our souls do not die with our bodies. In her second book, Encircled by the Light Fantastic, A Deeper Journey into the Light with Orbs, Nancy continues chronicling her path of gaining spiritual knowledge and expanding acceptance of what is possible, while traveling to many sacred and ancient sites around the world. She shares these experiences with you along with her photographs of remarkable spirit encounters. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. Om Times Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, Om Times offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an Om Times magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on Om Times TV and broadcasting it across the extensive Om Times radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. Om Times. Open yourself to the possibilities.
Is it time yet?
It's time.
Let's start time for dinner.
Oh, terrific.
Faster dinner.
Donating pet food is one of the many ways you can help families in your community. Pets and people belong together. Learn more at petsandpeopletogether.org.
And we're back. Okay, Rand, so you just went through this horrendous experience, but in the same sense, it was miraculous. I don't always get to talk to a miracle, so thank you for being on the show.
Yes,
But
with a great deal of humility wearing that badge. But yes, thank you.
yeah. So let's then talk about the actual experience. What was going on with you, whatever you is at this point during this? What do you remember? What do you recall? What are the feelings?
Yeah, I mean, that's the great. I mean, I've been asking myself that question since the event. Where was I? Where was I actually? I wasn't present. I wasn't in any three-dimensional.
Uh-oh, you froze.
There was no.
Oh, there you go.
I-
So
okay.
you talked about what you did remember is like being at the bottom of the water looking up.
Well, no, that's the only thing I could equate it to in a
Oh,
three-dimensional
okay.
realm. I'm in an area, sight and sound didn't exist.
Oh, that's interesting.
I wouldn't say the color black was there. I mean, where do you go if you,
Yeah.
this is
You don't have a vision or hearing and no black. Yeah, that eliminates a lot. But something must have maybe replaced it, or other things became more heightened.
oh no, it was an amazing experience of self. I was just probably for the first time and only time in my life, I was just with myself. I had no thought of work or anything. I was at peace with myself, period. And it's almost impossible to describe what that's like.
So
I don't know
this,
how to describe what that's like.
yeah,
There's no experience I've ever had, I don't want to
no.
use the word meditation, but maybe people can meditate to that depth. I don't know. But I was in absolute peace and serenity. That's all I can say. With no fear, no worry. Yeah, it's profound.
Wow. I sit in a channeling group, and last night a friend of mine was channeling this being, and the being was talking about the power of peace. And I went, wow, and that's what you're describing, that this power of being peaceful. So you didn't go through the tunnel, you didn't see beings, you didn't see lights. Um, Yours was more of a clairsentient or a sensory experience. Were
Yeah, sensory. Yeah, a sensory without senses. How do you like that?
Oh, thanks a lot. Where do I go from
Well,
there?
well, I mean, because I had no sense of body self. It was just me, whatever that is. I don't, like I said, it becomes quite profound. I've thought about it a lot. Where was I? Because my question is, why was I lucid if I was under anesthesia? Well, you were
Exactly.
in a dream state. I go, no, I wasn't in a dream state. I was in a conscious state of being. Like I'm very aware of what I'm feeling. This isn't a hallucination. It was very lucid. But why, if I was under anesthesia, it's just my question. If I was under anesthesia, I should have been unconscious
Right.
with no thought, and
Right.
certainly no dream thought. There's a big difference between lucid thought and a dream. I've heard people always say, you may have been dreaming. Not to me per se, but to anybody. I go, boy, if you actually are in a lucid moment, it's very hard for people to convince you that you were dreaming.
Absolutely, it's real. Yeah,
Yeah,
'cause you're there.
absolutely. And then, in that state of being, you would go, well, how long were you there? And I go, there was no time to it. It was just being there and opening my eyes at Cedar Sinai the next day.
Wow.
And what was the time frame? A second? What did it appear to me? There was no time to it. I lost all sense of time. It was just an experience, and then I'm back to reality.
Well, there is no time on in the other dimensions. That time is kind of a man-made construct, so no wonder that went away. But if you don't have, um, your body, did you know that you didn't have your body, but yet you could see around you?
No, there was no feeling of sight or thought of sight, thought of opening my eyes, no need to be conscious. Do you know what I
Okay.
mean? Like I didn't need to run home to 3D Mama and
Yeah.
get back to where I am. I was very content where I was, and I
Ah,
had resigned myself to whatever the event taking place is. Everything's fine. Everything will be fine. And
yeah.
I didn't know what that meant. That wasn't life or death. It was just content. It was absolute serenity.
Wow.
So,
Um, did you feel like a, part of something or a oneness or a wholeness? Was there something that you felt like that? What
well, I felt like I was the wholeness.
Oh, that's interesting.
I mean, my experience was such that all where I am is all that I need. It was a very profound experience, you know.
So and you weren't floating above your body, you weren't watching them work on your body.
No, I'm a little disappointed. I wanted to end up on my grandfather's pier fishing or something, but it didn't.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If I'm gonna have an experience, but the as subtle as it sounds, it was probably about as profound as I could feel something in my life.
Hmm.
I don't see the world or people or anything the same anymore.
That was my next question, but first, before we go there,
Yeah, take me
you know,
where we should go.
well, it's I would think coming out of something like this, I would say, why? Why was I taken there? Why did this
Right,
happen to me? But we talked the synchronicities. You weren't meant to die. Hearing you, I would say you were meant to experience this for a
right,
reason. And so I looked up the word, of course, synchronicity. What is synchronicity? And it's a phenomena, according to Psychology Today, in which people interpret two separate and seemingly unrelated experiences as being meaningful and intertwined, even though there is no evidence that one led to the other or that the two events or more are linked in any way. But clearly, hearing your story, these were all linked and they fell like dominoes to get you from point A to point F, whatever that was.
right,
And, Carl Jung, sorry, he said it's a meaningful coincidence of two or more events where something other than the probability of chance is involved. So, you had so many of these. I think it's safe to say we have to take out the probability of chance. This seems to have been directed by whom, what, and for what purpose.
right.
So, with all that in mind, and the fact, Rand, that you came back whole, tell us then, coming out of that, because you were on the life support,
Correct.
and then how people reacted when you came up, and then what changed for you after this experience?
Right. Well, I mean, like I said, I went from peace to opening my eyes. I mean, if you told me that a day had gone by, I wouldn't have believed it. Right. So, um, I opened my eyes. My wife was looking down at me.
Oh,
Yeah, I know. And I thought everything was just peachy keen because I thought, well, I went and had, this is all part of the procedure. And she goes, she goes, do you know where you are? Well, I had a ventilator, so I couldn't actually answer any questions in my mouth. But, I kind of gave her the open eyes, like, okay, I can't talk to you. And she goes, well, you're at Cedar Sinai. And I go, well, now why am I at Cedar Sinai? So
was that a different place than where
yeah,
you went to?
I started it at the hospital in Ventura, and they put me on ECMO. They put me in an ambulance. They drove me to Los Angeles, so it was probably about a 55-mile, 60-mile drive. And
And
then,
ECMO is the life-saving
yeah,
device,
I
right?
don't know
Life
what
support?
the acronym is beyond me on it, but
Okay, okay.
it's basically life support. So it acts as your blood and lungs. So as your heart and lungs, I mean. So
Okay.
yeah, so I was on this contraption. I had a ventilator. I had tubes and needles everywhere, and had no concern. Still, I was through this whole darn thing. I was never afraid. I mean, I
Wow.
never had a concern or a care at all. I just always felt, and once I still don't worry about anything anymore. I just it was amazing. Yeah, it's hard to put it into words. It really is.
Well, when the doctors came in to take you off this and you're just immediately clear-headed and communicating and moving, I mean, they must have been in shock.
Well, the joke was they came in on Tuesday and told me they were removing ECMO for me. I had no idea what that meant. So I thought they were like replacing batteries in some kind of device. I mean, no, honestly, I was that naive to it. Little did I know there's it's a horrible procedure. It can go wrong for 30% of the patients.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah, because they basically circumvented your heart. All my blood in my body is going out into a machine, coming back in. So what could go wrong, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Piece of cake.
that's right. Piece of cake. Well, I had no clue. So to me, it was just, I thought it was a very simple thing they were doing. So, and then, so they brought me back in the room. Then they took the ventilator out that night. That was Tuesday night. So we're at the 4th. And And then Wednesday, the doctor came in, a fantastic surgeon, Dr. Gunn at Cedar Sinai, and he was kind of having fun with me. He was spoofing at me, like, "Who are you?" And I'm like, "What are you
Yeah,
talking about?"
exactly.
He goes like, "How did you recover like this?" He goes, "You have no
Wow.
renal failure. My fraction ejection rate on my heart was normal. Like you have no, like even my other doctor said you have to have heart damage through this, just so you know. But none of my performance tests show I have heart damage. So
Even
it just
after the heart attacks.
even after having no heartbeat for 50 minutes, my heart came out of this with normal. Like right now, my normal blood refraction is normal for what I should be doing. So it's all these little things. No kidney. They would come in like 5 days later. One of the younger guys doing the rounds, he goes, I don't understand how your kidneys aren't somewhat compromised through all this.
Wow.
So and I say this, and I say it with great humility because, yeah, I go. I've said to my wife 100 times. I go, how did I get lucky on so many fronts? There's
Yeah.
nothing special about me. I'm
Yeah.
not
Well,
abnormal.
there obviously must have been a higher purpose or a higher reason.
Yeah, that's
And I've read stories where people have near-death experiences and they may have had problems before they go, including cancer, where they had been given X amount of days or weeks to live and they come back and they're healed.
right.
They're healed. But why? So how did this I mean, the doctors, you must have them questioning their whole line of thinking up to this point.
Well, when the doctor that came in and said that, I mean, he was a fun-loving, kind of had bravado to him. So this was back when I was in the ER. He didn't seem like the kind of guy who would be overly sensitive to the situation. But then when he stopped in that moment, he got a tear, his eyes welled up, and when he
Wow.
said to my wife, "This guy's a miracle."
Wow.
And I thought, wow. I mean, I must, I have all these stories. My other cardiologist, I was in visiting him, and one of his friends who was part of the experience said to him, he goes, "Whatever happened to that guy that we were with?" And he goes,
Thinking you were in bad shape.
"He made it." And he goes, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, I just saw him." He goes, "He's great." He goes, "Oh, I thought he was a goner."
Wow.
So all these people who do this for a living just thought I was gone. There was no way this guy's coming back. And he's certainly not coming back healthy. He's going to have problems.
Yeah, and you defied everything and
No,
everybody.
no, by the grace of God.
So so let's talk about then, Rand, how did this change you? How do you question what is my purpose? Why did I go through this? And then what did it do to you, your beliefs, your emotions? Talk a little bit about that.
No, that's pretty tough. It's easy. It's easy to do, but it's tough to be succinct and not get emotional. Well, first off, my love for my wife, which I always had, you don't want to diminish anything. Love of family, love of friends. I find out how close my friends are to me. Uh, yeah, it's profound. And so what is my duty through all this? It's to be a good neighbor. You know,
Ah,
well, look what we're going through now. Look at the world. We're not being good neighbors. We're being
mhm.
horrible neighbors. You know,
Yeah.
and so I am not going to be petty. I am not going to be petty. Don't be petty. That's if I can say anything. Enjoy your life, love your family. I mean, these are things we say all the time.
Yeah, they
Um,
become mundane sometimes.
oh yeah, but like my wife, she can tell me anecdotally about all the friends and the outpouring of love. And I know my friends love me, but now I know my friends love me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you feel it. So was there a shift in priorities or what's important or
Yeah,
how did it
absolutely.
change you? Yeah.
It's the fact that I'm going to take each moment, do my best not to be petty. I mean, I'm pretty idiosyncratic person. So, but do not sweat the small stuff. I mean,
Exactly.
you know, make it in a toughest thing, like what's the saying? It's easy to complicate your life. It's simplifying it that's difficult. And that's because sometimes we pay too much attention to the things that don't matter. For whatever reason, we're
Hmm.
influenced to do that, right?
Yeah.
But really get up in the morning and be very thankful for what you have. And I do that now. And I start the day standing in front of the sunrise and taking in a deep breath and and looking the whole thing over.
Wow. So I mean, when you were gone on the other
Yes,
side,
that's right.
that contrast of
When
not
I was
being
present,
petty. Yeah, when you were
yes,
present.
I was
And
never so present as when I was gone.
oh, I like that. But it's true. But the contrast, like I said, of okay, this doesn't matter. None of this really matters. Um, and you try and bring some of that back into this physical world. And I know it's difficult, but would that be the biggest change for you is, what's really important here?
Right. Well, I think that's a bit of the paradox. It's everything's important. You know, everything is of meaning, everything is important, but make sure your perspective on how you're viewing it is correct,
Oh,
right?
okay. Okay.
You know, so take a little more time to do the simple things, you know, because they are the precious things. They
Yeah,
really are, you know.
exactly.
I've told my friends now I love them more than I probably have ever said that. Because you don't say that, right? Why don't you say that? Because
I
that makes
know.
you what?
Do you feel like you felt love more deeply on the other side? The love that's there? Did
what is love,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
So, that's a cheap out on your question, by the way.
Sorry.
Um,
I mean,
mean,
I didn't
Nancy.
mean to put you
Yeah,
on the spot.
this whole thing's kind of being on the spot because I have to, I'm answering questions for you that I'm having trouble answering myself, because
Oh,
I'm
okay.
still in a journey on, what's it all about, Alfie, right?
Mhm. Well,
So,
that's why I thanked you for your courage to do this because it is so fresh.
yeah,
It's just 6 months and you're still processing that.
yeah,
So I know we talked a little bit, okay, so what do we do? How does this change us? What's different when we come back?
right.
And one of the things is, and I had asked you, um, your dreams. Are your dreams more often? Are they more vivid? What's going on with your dreams?
I sleep much better. I go
Ah.
right to sleep. So I don't, yeah, I don't, I don't overthink things, right? So
Mhm.
I don't carry false thoughts with me, negative thoughts. And because of that, you're
You're
at
at
peace.
peace.
And if you're
Mhm.
at peace, guess what you do? You have a safe and restful sleep, right?
Yeah. So when you get to that safe and restful sleep is a
Yeah.
lot of times when we leave our body and we have the lucid dreaming. So has that ramped up for you then?
Uh, uh, Probably. I've always been a pretty profound dreamer, and remember my dreams. Um, I don't have a lot of negative dreams. I have a lot of most of my dreams are like a Fellini film, anyways. They're very. My wife dreams in concrete corners. I drink. Everything's got smoke and a lot of There's a lot of artistic backdrop going on in my dreams.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I guess, yeah, I don't know what that really means. So, but good dreams. I have good dreams. Yeah, I wake up very refreshed. I go to sleep very simply. So, yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Well, you might be still, this might still be unfolding slowly. And when you sleep and you go to the other side, because this happens to me, I'm with my guides and teachers and whatever, and they're putting these, okay, now you're going to do this and now you're going to go there. And then we come back in our bodies. We don't always remember it. But I
Right.
would love to have you back on, Rand, in maybe another 6 months or so as this unfolds for you and see what's changed. See
You want
then.
to bring back some angry guy in 6 months smoking cigarettes? Wait a minute, he went the wrong way.
No, I don't think that's going to happen.
No,
But
I know it's not. It's not going to happen.
yeah, because it's and it'll take time. But I truly believe that you're here for a reason. Obviously, we all are. But you were saved. You were either adjusted or healed or whatever for some higher purpose. And boy, do we need the light workers and the higher purpose people right now. So I want to bring up the last slide, Chris, if we could. And I found this one, and whoops, there we go. And there's a thing called the law of oneness. I know Rand touched on it a little bit where he said he just kind of felt like he was, one, everything. And this again is a pretty recent orb that I just captured. It says everything is made up of universal energy coming from the same energetic source. So what that says is we're all the same. We're all connected. We are all one. So thank you, Chris, for that. So Rand, I want to thank you so much for joining me today, for having the courage to come out. It's probably, especially for men, I think it's a little more difficult to talk about this woo stuff.
No, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. Probably before, now after, not so much. Yeah.
That's interesting.
If you would have told me that this would be an experience I'm going to have, I would go, no, please.
Yeah.
And I don't mean the heart attack. I mean, just being honest about how I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's very cathartic to do that. But
well, and I'm sure you're helping others,
Well, I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah. Well, again, I appreciate that. We'll stay in touch and see how this unfolds and, have you back. Okay. Thank you, Rand.
You're welcome.
Okay. Bye-bye. Whew. Okay. What an experience. So, I sit and I go into meditation and I ask my guide, Leonini, for a message always to share on the podcast. And I never tell her, okay, is it going to be about the podcast or is it going to be, just a random message? So when I sat down yesterday, she said she wanted to talk about sleep. And I thought, okay, well, this is just kind of a random message. No, here's the message. She said, what is sleep? It is a time of rest when you close your eyes and, as the saying goes, you drift off to sleep. But where do you drift off to? As your physical body rests and recharges, your soul sometimes takes the opportunity to meet with guides and teachers, and yes, to even meet with loved ones in spirit. When you awaken from your dreams, when you awaken and your body and soul are one again, you remember these meetings in the form of dreams. This sleep experience helps to demonstrate that you are not just a physical body, but a soul that inhabits a physical body. We remind you today that the soul is eternal, the body only temporary. You are an eternal being who is one with Source. Wow, she kind of wrapped that all up with a big bow, didn't she? So she's just saying, okay, here, you want to see how this separates, that you're not really this body, you are the soul. Think of sleep, think of dreams. So I'm going to give you a card reading, and I have, because we're talking about being one, starry beings. So I'm going to pull a card with the intention that this be a card for all. So bear with me here, and I will shuffle them. I shuffled a little bit before the show, but I'll just do a couple more here. And my intent is that this is for everybody who is listening. I thank you for watching the show. As always, I love you guys. I appreciate it. Okay, so the card that I'm drawing is, okay, Rand, this one's for you. It says, trust in your new path. All will work out for you. So if there's a new direction that you're heading, if spirit takes you on a left turn when you want to go right, trust that it's going to work out. It always does, doesn't it? Okay, you guys have a great rest of your day. I'll see you next time on the Spheres of Spirit. Thank you. Bye-bye.